Hello again, everybody. It is Jerry Slater, and we have a special edition of Your Town at Work with an exclusive, the man of the hour, the decision maker, Dr. David Thomson, who is the superintendent of Norwood Public Schools.
He is, yes. Yep.
Dave, you are the most popular man in town right now.
Well, either that or the most vilified. We'll have to debate that. We'll do a poll later on. But yeah.
So let's recap.
Yep.
So the decision is made, and that's kind of the key where we'll start.
Well, the decision is made. The preferred opening decision is made. There's a lot, and I say that very carefully because there's a lot of moving parts that are not coming together. And I use the analogy of, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, and we only have 250 pieces on the table right now. So we would like to start in a hybrid situation. There's been a lot of conversation, and I was joking with people yesterday on how I've got a third of the people upset with me because we're not going full in person. I have a third of the people that are upset with me because I'm not going full remote, and I've got a third of the people that are happy with the hybrid but are not happy because we don't have extended day figured out. So that's my joke about popular guy or villain. But so we want to start with a hybrid model, or have to start, or if we're going to do any sort of in-person instruction, start with that. And people say, well, why aren't we going full in person? We don't have the space in our overcrowded schools, in our very old middle school that has interior rooms that we cannot use, and in the high school that was built to specifications of closer than 3 feet. Then you have the whole 3 feet thing, which has thrown a lot of people for a loop. We're not, as an administrative team, comfortable with that amount of distance. It's one thing to ask adults to behave in a certain way with 3 feet. Young children, that's pretty difficult. The science about, there's still more and more science about, children not getting it is still in its infancy. So there's a comfort level with that, but ultimately we cannot ensure the safety of our staff and students and do an in-person model. So that does not change unless we're going to reclaim the old elementary schools the town has sold off or something along that line. And people go, why don't you use this? And why don't you use this facility? And they have to be ADA compliant. You have to have a nurse. You have to have an administrator there. There's all these things. You can't just open a building and throw kids in there. So hopefully people are starting to understand just how complex education is. And I tell people that education in its basic format has not changed in 125 years.
Yeah.
People go to a school, there's a teacher there, they stay there for the day, they go home. I mean, that basic structure has been the same for 125 years. Well, we just threw that all out the window in March, and now we are totally trying to redesign and instruct kids in a methodology that has never been used fully for children. And there's a child developmental piece to this as well. The other thing I get is, at my workplace, there's a difference between an adult learner and a child. And if you have not taken a course in child development, I would expect that you would take that before you went down that path. So we have been working basically nonstop since the beginning of June on this. We have just put together a 34-page document of our preferred plan. There probably will be some changes to that.
And that's the what's up on the NPS.
That is up on the website. It was also shared on the Facebook page.
Yep.
Sent out via Twitter. There are links in that shows. So the level of detail that we needed to do was everything. So we're going to go hybrid to the safety precautions and the cleaning procedure we're putting in there,
is actually in there. Yeah.
Sample schedules for students. To talking about, there are certain things we are required to do by the department. One is we have to have a remote only option. We have students and families that are immunocompromised or are not able or cannot. There are people in our community that are basically staying at home and not going out because the risk is too great. Well, we have those both in staff and in students. We have to accommodate them. The other is our most needy populations, and the biggest example is our special ed, significant needs, substantially separate programs need to be in person. Those are the programs for the kids that do not transfer to any sort of remote learning at all. If you know, so there's certain things we have to do. So now it's figuring out how do we fit a 4-day program for our special ed students with this cohorting of kids going back and forth. A lot of we are very lucky in that. I jokingly say that the department chairs in this town are the best in the country, so it's a great place to work. But Chief Brooks, Chief Maurice, just awesome people to work with. Well, Segal Reese is right up there. She's a rock star. We've been meeting with her almost weekly since it started in March. She's been involved with all of our protocols. Any questions we have, we send it off to poor Segal. She's right up there with not having an inch to breathe. But those close relationships that we have, because if you have experts and great people, why wouldn't you reach out to them?
Yeah, why wouldn't you leverage them? So right. This has really been. So September 17th is the start of school, stake in the ground for the direction we're going in. And the first part of the work was to decide on a direction. Now, between now and by the way, if you didn't think you were getting sleep before, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
For the next 4 weeks
right.
or so,
right.
It's pulling on all these experts again.
Yep.
To figure out. So what are you doing now? And I know numbers kind of play into this too.
Yeah. Well, so basically we need, and I have 2 communications that we're going to get out this evening to families, to staff. We need real hard numbers for who is going to be doing the remote learning academy. So who's seriously considering? It's not a commitment, but we need numbers of that. We need numbers of who's riding the bus, because people have held off on registering for the bus. There very well might be an end date for that, for when we can take them, because bus routes are another piece we have to try to fit in. How are we getting kids to school? Are we able to start all at one time, or is it 2 waves of kids coming in? So all of these pieces, so the next week, basically 5 days, is about getting those hard numbers more, because we've done dipsticking and surveying. Well, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? Well, we're looking for more of a serious consideration. And again, people, I know that 34 pages of edu-dribble about how you're going to reopen schools might not be the most exciting beach read. But in order to make an informed decision, you really have to go through, look at those schedules, look at those things, to make a decision on what is best for you and your family. From those, then we can get into putting more pieces of the puzzle on the table and putting it together. But then there's things that are beyond our control. Right. And I'm not going to go off on a long diatribe of the paralysis in Washington, but there is a funding piece, and there has been funding from the state. But $225 per student does not cover possible increased bus costs, does not cover increased staffing, because we're going to have to run our regular school and the remote learning academy as well. So that's a increase in staff. The cleaning bit and the materials to make sure children are safe, those costs are an increase that were not originally budgeted when we did the budget in February, March. So all of those things, and we have gotten some money and grant money, and we've actually applied for every single one and gotten the max. We have a new grant writer, and we're using that. One of the ways that we use that over the summer is to really bring some of our excellent teachers together and really rework and revamp the curriculum, because I expected and shared with my team back in May is that I don't think we're going to be back to regular school, and we're going to be in some sort of remote or flexing between remote, and we're going to need to revise the curriculum so it easily can be done in these two different formats. Yeah. So that's been a tremendous amount of work over the summer. So we were in a good place. We got a lot of cooperation from the town and from Tony Mizuko, and using that CARES Act money, it's from the town's CARES Act money. We purchased Chromebooks. We did them before the end of May. We have them. There are about 25 districts in the state that are still waiting, and they're thinking they're going to get them for December. So,
and we have 3 months worth of PPE.
We have 3 months of right. So we bought the PPE so that, and the plan is, as we use up a month, we buy another month. So we're not buying 12 months of PPE because we don't know whether we'll be fully remote during the winter, for instance, because you get that second wave. So
So what do you say, and I understand that the finances are a bit of a challenge and that was a little bit of a hot topic, but
a little bit, yeah.
yeah, slightly.
Yeah.
But again, what would you say to the folks that are saying, well, how are you going to pay for all this? And you don't have exact numbers
Right.
yet either.
So it's and this really is crisis management. And when you're in crisis management, you can only work with what you know. If you spend a lot of time and energy worrying about what you don't know or what is coming a week or two down, you don't get the stuff done in front of you. And I know that's not how people like to plan, and trust me, it's not how educators and myself like to plan either. But that's the situation we're in. We are dealing with the now and the near future as we move forward, and hopefully some of those other pieces will end up on the table between here and then. So, I mean, I can't worry about the funding of something if I haven't even figured out the cost of it yet. So, and again, with our delegation from Massachusetts that goes to Washington, they are already behind getting the HEROES Act or the CARES Act 2, whatever the heck they want to call it, off the ground. They have voted for it. It's the other parts of the country that are, and different agendas that are conflicting here. But if we don't get that number, at least we've got everything figured out. We might have to start remote. And if that money doesn't come through, we might, and that's the way it is. But having a preferred method and having I'd say have the time, I could use about an extra month and a half, but having the time to do that plan and bring it all together is going to position us so that if we can go there or get there, so for instance, if we walked in and said, okay, well, we're not going to do anything because we don't have the funding, we don't know anything, we're just going to go remote.
Yeah. Okay.
There is no way after school starts that without canceling school for a few weeks,
right,
we could revamp and rearrange all the deck chairs.
So now is the time, really,
right.
And
it would have been nice if some of this stuff had been out in May. So and I'll give you an example. So we brought together, high quality team to work on our curriculum. Curriculum revision like this, and this is going to continue throughout the year. But normally to revise a curriculum, that's a 3-year process. Okay, we're talking less than 3 months.
Right.
Okay, bus guidance, we just got the middle of July. If you're redoing bus routes, that's at least a 3-month process. We were talking about 6 weeks. Maybe we'll get to 7 weeks to redo bus routes. So when people are frustrated that they don't know this and they don't know that, they need to understand the amount of work that has been dropped on us in the limited time frame we've been allowed to do this. And I know people are not happy about the 10 days. I honestly, even if that didn't come through, I do not know how I would at this point in time have students walking through our doors on September 2nd. It might have been remote, might have been something else, but that's just a capacity and reality. And I know that people think, and there's other districts that have communications people that have done all these documents. Okay? Me and my team spent the entire weekend working on that.
Doing those stuff.
Okay, because we don't have what other places have. And I'm not complaining, I'm just pointing out that people need to be a little patient with where we are. And if it took us, 2 months to get the core of what we do totally redesigned, to expect that we're going to know sports and no extended day and know how chorus and those things are going to work is really unrealistic. And I truly understand parents' unhappiness with not being able to plan and go forward, because most people, again, that 125 years worth of school, most people start worrying about how they're going to arrange their kids, come June when school ends. They figure that all out. Oh, I got the whole summer to figure this out. But it's the same thing when you thought you were sending your kid to camp. Most of the camps closed as well. It's the same thing, or they were totally changed, or they can only take so many kids. We very well could be that, but ultimately, I just want to say one last thing. Ultimately, we are not willing to compromise the safety of our students and staff. That is first and foremost. In-person education is much better for them. The advantage we had last March is that those routines and all the things have been built. So you just went home and did it. Without that opportunity to do that, I'm concerned about that. And getting our needy populations and our young kids into school has got to be a priority while we can.
Well, yeah. And again, that's the other part of this is, and you said it. You may have to, on a dime, switch one way or another depending on what's going on. Is there any final message that you have for the community, for parents? Obviously, you need them to weigh in on what they're thinking, but for the community at large?
We're working as hard and as fast as we can. I've taken 5 days of vacation since the middle of March, and usually summer is a time when people get to take vacation. And every day, and I speak for a lot of people on this team, have been 12, 14-hour days. We're working as hard as we can, and I understand the frustrations out there, but please be patient. We're going to make sure we're doing it well. We're going to make sure we're doing it thoughtfully. We're not just going to slap things up on a wall. And we care about your kids, and we're going to help you out. And the other thing is, with the requirements for the social distancing, we just don't have the capacity. We don't have the physical capacity we used to have. So we can't have 100% of our kids come in. Extended day is not going to be the same numbers it was before. It was not the same numbers it was this summer for that reason. So we have a lot to figure out. And I realize people are frustrated, but let us do it.
Yeah, let you
do it.
Well, let's end it on that note. Dr. Thomson, Dave.
Yeah.
First of all, it goes without saying, thank you so much for your leadership. We understand this is, and I've said this to multiple people in this town in positions of managing these things. This is totally new territory.
Yeah.
So, thank you for everything that you're doing on behalf of our kids and on behalf of the community and the team.
Right.
And you've had a real, A-team involved in this. And anyone who wants to know everyone who was involved, check out that 34-page beach read.
Yeah, beach read.
I started reading it last night. I got to admit, I might dozed a little, but seriously, it's got an awful lot of detail in there, and it's fine. So, for Your Town at Work, this has been a very special COVID edition, breaking news. I'm Jerry Slater.